Okay.
It was fairly warm in the farmhouse, as someone had made a fire in the fireplace. I slept on the floor with several blankets the men had scrounged from the upstairs bedrooms. I removed my boots. As usual, my feet were wet and soaked. Your feet are always wet and soaked.
Yeah.
And what's the results of your feet right now?
What?
What problems do you have in your feet right now?
Yes, frostbite.
And how about your left leg?
Now, the left leg is all right.
Just the right leg,
Just
frostbite.
the right leg, yeah.
Hoping they would not burn up as I slept, I made a mental note as to where my boots were drying. In the event I needed them in a hurry, after munching on part of a K-ration I had in my field jackets, I soon fell asleep. I was awakened by someone shaking me. It was one of the men of the G Company, and the guard at the bunker wanted to be relieved. I got up and put on my partly dried socks and boots, took my weapon, and walked out of the bunker. The other man at the bunker told me there was a recon patrol that had one about 2 hours ago, and they should be returning shortly. He also stated that the password was top dollar, and the reply was all out. With that, he picked up his M1 and left one of the houses. It was cold and damp in the bunker, and I wondered where the other man was for guard duty. After about 20 minutes, the other man for guard duty showed up. He was from G Company. When I first saw him, I knew he was a sloucher and a gold brick. I knew he was a sloucher and a gold brick. He gave me some lame-brained excuse that he could not get up and that he needed an extra 20 minutes sleep. I did not say anything except to acknowledge his presence, then looked out to the front into the darkness. A short time later, there was a blinking of a flashlight to our front. I knew it was but late coming from the G Company and wanted to open fire in its direction. It was a patrol returning. They got closer. I halted them and asked them the password, top dog, and it was the reply I got answered was all out. It was 6-man patrol led by a buck sergeant of G Company. They were stopped at the bunker a minute that stated that there were no Germans within 25 miles. That was gratifying to know, and I wondered what was in store for us in the morning. The soldiers in the bunker with me slept most of the time in our guard tour, but I did not object at all. I did not feel like talking to him anyway. At 0500 hours, I woke him and told him to get our reliefs, to be sure that they were awake before we left them. I knew that he would not return, and I did not want to get stuck with him on a double tour. When he left, I suddenly thought about Renee and what she left for the convent, or what she was doing. I missed her greatly, but the emptiness inside me was gradually being replaced by the realization that we could never be together. I also wished that she be happy and content in her new life, and she had found the fulfillment she was seeking in a cloistered setting. As the emptiness and desolation gradually receded within me, my thoughts kept returning to my bleak future. Now I was thinking differently. Before I was getting through this war first and then thinking about the after. I could see the war winding down here, and my big question was, what after? I had nothing going for me. My life with Renee was never to be, and I could not see life with Jean or Anne. For the first time, it hit me squarely. I would be returning to my old life I had left when I entered the Army. The thought of it sent a shiver throughout my body. The full severity and harshness of my situation hit me on the head. I had nothing to go back to. I had given up everything I had the past year. What did I do that? Why did I do that? Just then my relief came, and I filled him in on a situation and left for the farmhouse to get a few hours sleep. I was too upset to sleep, thinking about my missed opportunities and my dismal future. The next morning we were ordered to attack the towns of Fräulein and Kirchland. After an air artillery bombardment, we moved in almost unopposed. As the hour later was counteracted by two infantry companies moving north of Dartmouth along the railroad, we quickly set up several stations of heavy guns, aided by 81 millimeter mortars, several artillery battalions, and by airstrike carried by the squadron already in the air, diverted from another mission. The air squadron, guided by colored smoke, laid down by the artillery stopped in enemy troops and gun positions with excellent results. Division artillery and the airstrike discouraged any enemy buildup in the woods east of Brungelmeyer, the next closest town. By nightfall, the enemy was harassing over the whole front with the artillery, self-propelled guns, and mortar fire. What's a self-propelled gun?
Self-propelled, you aim it automatically, and it traverses back and forth, back and forth.
Okay, these are all American soldiers there by the thousands.
Yeah.
Where's the soldiers from France and England?
Other districts.
Other areas?
They wouldn't mix nationalities. That would be crazy.
But let me ask you, was there just as many of them as there were you?
No?
Was there just as many was there just as many soldiers from France and United Kingdom?
I don't know how they divided them up. I don't know. Maybe France they give much. France always niggardly about everything anyway.
What's that?
France is always niggardly about everything. They don't want to do nothing.
I see. How about the United Kingdom?
Huh?
How about the United Kingdom? They have a lot of soldiers?
No, they were real progressive. They were like us.
So basically, this war is in Europe, and if the United States didn't step in, that would have been a big problem for France and the United Kingdom.
Well, they were the leader. They took all the responsibility. They had the equipment. They had the men.
Okay, page 452. I was still using G Company's replacements, and while they were satisfactory, I wanted people of my own again. On April 8th, we have cleared the final remnants and enemy resistance at Castrop-Rall. We were ordered into a rest area north of Castrop-Rall, and it was here the division received some much-needed replacements. They were all fresh out of replacement depot, full of some doubts and fears all had when we first got here. There were many in the group replacement, but I would only dwell on four I had the most contact with. Pastrone was a production worker in a brewery, Utica Club, in Utica, New York, who had been out of high school only a short time. He worked at the brewery for a month or so, and then he was drafted. He had a steady girlfriend and was definitely getting married when he got out. I admired his sense of direction and definite goals. Mullenhower was a quiet, red-haired farm boy from Iowa, married with two children, a boy and a girl. He did not resent being drafted with two children, but wanted desperately to return home safely. He was the oldest of the replacements at the age of 26 and considered a grandfather by most standards here. So someone at 26 was basically the old man.
Yeah.
Wow. Maxey, an ex-student, ex-boxer, and ex-philosopher, did not have a mean bone in his entire body. I could never get close to him, but some strange interaction, I always felt we had much in common. He never talked about his family or his personal life, but he was most accommodating for a Texan, always reliable, dependable, and considerate for everyone. So most Texans on your troop were very considerate and reliable.
Yeah.
Texans. Brown was a happy-go-lucky young kid of 18 from the Bronx. With a middle-class upbringing, he did not like school but was intelligent. He did not work anywhere and only waited to be drafted. He disliked the Army but never complained about it and was quite adaptable and agreeable in every respect. With the exception of Mulholland, they were all 18 or 19, and I was glad to have them. I left Tuttle as a gunner and selected Mulholland as assistant with the rest of the ammo bearers, but with the provision that I would alternate their positions at times to give everyone a chance at firing a weapon in combat. There was much talk of the war ending soon, and we hoped that we could all survive the last few months. I once again took a special interest in Muhlenhauer, as I did not want anything to happen to him since he was the only father in the squad. I thought of looking after him. I thought of my looking after Leip and what a catastrophe that turned out to be. I was hopeful that this would be different and the war would be over soon. Post came up with a jeep and trailer and much needed rations, equipment, and ammo. The kitchen followed shortly, and we had our first hot meal in weeks. Best of all the engineers set up a battalion shower, and we took turns driving to it for our first hot shower in months. Mine was since getting out of the hospital. How would they heat the water in the middle of a field?
Huh?
How do the showers have hot water in the middle of a field?
You're freezing.
What?
You're freezing.
It was cold water?
Well, the water's hot, but the air's cool.
But how do they heat the water?
Hey, heat the water?
Yeah.
The engineers will put up a big tank.
Okay. Heated with propane or gas?
It was gas.
After resting and regrouping for 2 days, we jumped off again north of Lutken Dortmund. We passed through elements of the 289th and 290th Infantry and made a considerable advance until we ran into a counterattack of infantry and Mark IV tanks. We were attached to Company E, and new replacements were coming quite well. Tull and Muhlenhauer hit it off, and I think they operated well as a team. We crossed the railroad tracks above Dortmund with F Company on the right and G Company on the left of the road. We were in a town advancing slowly when a German machine gun suddenly opened up and killed 2 men from the F Company. We fanned out and took to the buildings as the machine gun fire and Panzerfaust increased. Tuttle and Muhlenhauer set up a gun up in the second-story window, and I cautioned them not to fire unless they had a good target. Within minutes, German paratroopers were in the streets with Panzerfaust yelling for us to surrender. So now these paratroopers, German paratroopers, get into the act, and they're yelling for all you people, all the Americans to surrender.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
Where are they at?
What did you think when they're telling you to surrender?
Well, tell them what the general said. Nuts to you.
So you would never surrender?
No.
No. Yelling for us to surrender. Tunnel opened up on them, and they scattered. At the same time, our artillery started coming in and hitting all around us. There were 8 or 9 casualties of F Company, but my new replacements came through unscathed. From the new division command post at Ickman, the attack to the south and southwest was ordered to continue. The 79th Infantry Division sweep into the Essen area was progressive, and the 35th Infantry Division on our right flank was maintaining a sizable bridgehead on the east bank of the Zweigen Canal. Against stubborn resistance, only small gains could be recorded. The 291st Infantry continued its defense, preparing for roadblocks and other barriers with the aid of the 275th Engineering Battalion. Tunnel and Muhlenhauer continued to operate well together, and the rest of the squad adapted to one another rapidly. It was not too long before we were all a clear unit. I liked the setup and frankly enjoyed the relationship we had to a considerable extent. No one was obstructive or antagonistic as in the days when the former ASTP and the Air Corps were within our ranks. Maxie was cooperative at all times, and it was only in the quiet moments that we would open up slightly. I surmised that he must have been hurt by someone close to him to have such a pent-up suppression. While we're in roadblock in the middle of the night, he would start to talk about his parents, especially his mother. I felt that he was antagonistic toward her, but I never found the true reason why he felt that way. He reminded me of the antagonism I felt about my mother and how I was reluctant to discuss it with anyone. I certainly didn't want to press him for details, and Sue accepted him as a warm, generous person. Brown, on the other hand, kept things going and made all of us feel like we're civilians at times. He was good for morale and the esprit de corps. The 1153 what finally happened to Brown?
Pardon?
What happened to Brown? You said Brown was easygoing. Brown.
Brown?
Yeah, what happened to Brown?
Probably deserted.
The 153rd engineer placed a floating bridge over the Lipton River, southwest of the Waltrip, and the Bailey Bridge over the Swine Canal at Meckenhogen. We closed in on the 35th Infantry Division in all sectors of the Sway Canal. The center of Castrop area, the 291st, the Saarbrunn, Warren, Wilhelm, Langen, Dreer area. Enemy resistance was obviously slacking in one area, and we noticed the German elements retiring towards Drottman. The enemy continued withdrawal south of the Ruhr River. So now we're getting to the end of the war where the Germans are just retreating.
Yeah?
Even though a short time ago, the German parachuters told you to surrender.
Yeah.
I wonder why they said that. They had,
The Germans?
yeah,
Just hard ass, that's all.
yeah. We would be held in reserve until later in that day while the 289th and 290th Infantry regiments went ahead with the day's attack. On the right of the 289th broke light resistance to reach the Ruhr River, and to the left was the 1st Battalion, the 291st Infantry of Witten cleared by 1600 hours. Two bridges were intact and placed under guard, while the rest of the battalion repulsed another counterattack. The 291st Infantry, less one battalion, passed through the 290s left and attacked south of 1730 hours, taking Eschelhofen. We were attached to E Company during the attack phase, and a squad lumbered along, trying to stay up as they got out of the wooded area and reached the outskirts of town. Tuttle and Mollerhauer set up a gun at the tree line and began to hear some small arms fires to our right. Then came the slow, mournful screams of Neubenwaffer shells as they pierced the air. As we were still in the wooded area, the squad started to drop to the ground instinctively. I motioned to them to get up and stand beside the tree so that they could not get more protection from the tree burst standing than they were in a prone position. They quickly followed my instructions as another barrage of Nebelwerfers screamed overhead. I was looking around for some abandoned foxhole, but there were none. I picked a spot beyond the bottom of a draw where the trees were not so dense. I positioned Tuttle and Muller in a draw and motioned the rest of the squad to take cover on each side of the gun and still draw. We laid a base of fire to our right and a direction of small arms fire. The Neubenwaffer barrage was over, and I could hear E Company moving once again towards the town. There was still some enemy artillery whistling overhead, but it was not intended for targets. Well to our rear. How many minutes?
That's it. 3 minutes.
Huh?
Just talk. Yeah, just a few more words.
So at this stage, the war was winding down.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to get killed.
The war was winding down.
Yeah, nobody wanted to get killed.
So the Germans were retreating,
Yeah.
and
No, they lost everything. They don't have no equipment.
but it was interesting. Towards the end of the war, why would these German parachuters be telling you to surrender?
The what?
The Germans were losing the war. It was the end, but you said German paratroopers were telling you to surrender.
Yeah.
Why? They're done.
They didn't know what was going on. They're up in the tree someplace. They stayed there.
I see. So that was about it for the war then, right?
Yeah.
And how long did you stay in that area for?
It was all by numbers then. How much, if you got a family, if you got kids, if you got wounded, and all that nonsense.
When did the ending when the war stopped in the Pacific?
Oh, that went on for another year almost. They were going to send us over there.
Oh, so once you're done in Germany, they're thinking about sending you to the Pacific?
Yeah, yeah.
Why, were they short on
Well,
men?
they dropped that bomb and that was it.
Oh, yeah, were they short on men?
Yeah. That shut everything down.
Weren't the Marines primarily in the Pacific?
Yeah, there were no Marines in Europe, no.
So you think, to this date, the Marines are primarily in the Pacific?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why, but that's the way they figured it out.
Wow. How about the Navy?
Navy was all over. If there was an ocean there, they were in it.
They
Wow.
were everywhere. The Navy played.
But Army was the numbers.
Huh?
The Army was the number of men.
The what?
The Army had the number of men to make this thing work. They had the largest
Well,
population.
Navy had a big cadre too. Air Force had a big cadre.
Yeah,
They're all putting their 2 cents in.
yeah. Well, that's amazing. So, we're ending this chapter right now on patrols on the Rhine VE Day, and we're coming up later on chapter 16 on page 455, civilian life once again. Civilian life once again. And we'll pick up that tomorrow, and maybe,
I didn't want to go home.
why? Why'd
I
you-
was having too much fun.
You're a player.
Huh?
You're a player. Why didn't you go back to Owensboro?
Huh? Owensboro?
Or Haverford West?
Well, her picture was up on the wall for a while, so I talked to her. Remember that we took the pictures out, put my
Tell
mother's
us this
picture up?
story. This is interesting. How many minutes is that?
Just less
Huh?
than one.
Tell us briefly of the story about Owensboro picture on your office wall.
Well, I had Anna Mae Mahaney's picture on the wall for a long time.
For how long?
And then we called her up, and that was 20 years later, and she sounded feeble and old, and I said, well, take that picture down, put my mother up.
So it went full circle.
Yeah.
Their mother's son.
Yeah.
It went full circle.
That was the whole theme of the book.
So where? Yeah, it went full circle. So where's Ann's picture now?
Where is it?
Ann
Ann's
Mahoney's
picture now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I took those pictures down. They were only cardboard. They were metal pictures with glass shields on them. I wrapped them up in towels, and I put them away someplace in a box. I can't find them. Somebody sold them or something. I can't find them.
You're a good